Kaldheim spoiler season is now over, so you know what that means. Let's talk about some gods. What is up, Commander players? My name is Matt. You're watching Top Commander. So, do apologize. It's been a rough week trying to get videos up, but the spoiler season for Kaldheim is over, which is going to be broken up into a couple of parts, especially when it comes to the MDFC Commander cards that we have from this set, because all the gods have a flip side. Therefore, if you total up all the card facings for the command zone, there are a total of 45 from the set. So I'm just going to do this as a two-part and talk about the gods, and then the next video will be talking about the other legendary creatures that are in this set. But before we dive into it too deep, as always, if you wish to support this channel, be sure to like, share, and subscribe as always. And if you wish to support this channel directly, be sure to visit patreon.com/topcommander. But with that out of the way, let's go ahead and see what's going on here. So the cool thing is of course, Kaldheim is a Viking set, which the alternate borders on these cards look amazing. I really am loving the borders and especially the altered arts. But with this set, of course, Kaldheim being based around Vikings, Norse mythology and everything, we have new gods, which, I mean, it was only a matter of time because we did have the Greek gods. Now we have the Norse gods, you know, Odin, Thor, Loki. Those are the typical ones that most people know. I might do another video a little bit later discussing which gods they actually did the cards for. That's not 100% guaranteed just yet. I want to get through the set review first, and then we'll move on from there. But with the first god we're going to be talking about, Halvar, God of Battle. This guy looks really, really sick. 2 generic and 2 white for a 4/4 legendary creature god. Creatures you control that are enchanted or equipped have double strike. Okay. At the beginning of each combat, you may attach target aura or equipment attached to a creature you control to target creature you control. That's a mouthful. So the equipment and the aura already have to be on the field on a creature. So it's not like you get to play him, play an equipment, and his ability moves the equipment. No, you have to pay the equip cost at least once, and then you can shift it around. But it's at the beginning of each combat. So the cool thing that I like about this is, let's say you have auras and equipment on one of your creatures that swings out. Maybe it didn't get vigilance. Maybe you didn't get to your vigilance enablers or something. So now that creature's tapped. Well, you don't get the benefits, you don't get the buff, you don't have a big guy, but let's say maybe you have Halvar was the one that was equipped, and then maybe you have a Pure Steel Paladin or SRAM Senior Edificer, something like that. Well, at the beginning of the next player's turn, you can move one of your things over to the other creature. That, say, maybe it was a creature that wasn't attacking or something that just came into play. Something that is able to block. That's really neat. I kind of like the aspect because typically... So the weird part is, typically with aura and equipment decks, you're typically looking at a Voltron style commander. So that's a little bit of a tough spot to be in. But one in particular that I could think of is Akiri. What was it? Fearless Voyager, the one that came in Zendikar. The way that she reads, she cares about multiple creatures being on the field with equipment. So I could see this being very good in a deck that has that particular style. Now, there are other artifact and aura equipment commander decks, like SRAM Senior Edificers, mono white. Halvar could be a mono white Voltron style deck. Then you have your Boros ones. There's a couple of those. The Akiri, there's, you know, Wylith. But I feel like this is more of a fit for Akiri because Akiri cares about having multiple creatures. Now, if you do have any of the other ones, and you're not necessarily building them as a Voltron style, Halvar can definitely work with those. I know that if, like, you have a moment where Wylith is costing too much for commander attacks, it's a little difficult to keep casting him, to keep swinging in, but also, Wylith, I feel, is a little underrated because a lot of people automatically assume that's a Voltron commander. He draws you cards equal to the number of artifact equipment and auras on him. So the way that I built my Wylith deck, which I could probably do a deck tech video on for later, basically you want to strap a bunch of cheap artifact, cheap equipment, cheap auras on him, swing out one good time and get, you know, draw like maybe 8 cards. You're running Thought Vessel, you're running Reliquary Tower, anything to make sure that you have no maximum hand size. You draw a bunch of cards, and then you can start playing out like SRAM and Pure Steel Paladin and a couple other different small creatures that you can beef up. And then it turns from a Voltron style commander to just a horde of creatures that each get their own little equipment and stuff. It's actually a lot of fun. I enjoy playing it. I have not been able to play test it with my primary group, but we have played it a couple of times here at the house, and I really enjoy playing it. But that's for a different discussion. Now, the flip side of Halvar, Sword of the Realms. 1 and a white for a legendary artifact equipment. Yes, you now have an equipment in the command zone. The equip cost is 1 and a white, so basically the same cast cost as Halvar, because he's 2 and 2 white to cast him as the creature. But to cast and equip Sword of the Realms is 2 and 2 white total. Equipped creature gets +2/+0 and has Vigilance. Really nice. Whenever equipped creature dies, return it to its owner's hand. Now, Command Zone already did their set review on on the gods themselves, which I thought was interesting when they were mentioning if you had this paired up with like a Dockside Extortionist and you could get enough treasures and a sack outlet to keep this going, you can produce infinite mana, but you have to be able to do like a Ashnod's Altar, sacrifice Dockside Extortionist, you get 2 colorless. That allows Dockside to come back to your hand. So what you need is you have to have a treasure for the red, 1 of the colorless for him because he's 1 and a red, and then another colorless to equip. You also need another treasure for the white. So in order for this to happen, your opponents have to have at least, if I'm calculating this correctly, your opponents have to have at least 3 artifacts and equipment. Now with the number of mana rocks running around, this shouldn't be that difficult. But it bounces it to your hand, so you have to recast him, and you can net 1 treasure every time, giving you infinite mana. Now, what you do with that is totally up to you. It just depends on the type of deck, what colors you're in, how you want to go about that. But yeah, it's another infinite mana shenanigan. Probably not the most efficient way of doing it, especially with CEDH players. They look for more efficiency. That's why, honestly, Nim Deathmantle is more efficient with a sack outlet and a creature that comes in with tokens, such as Brea or Mere Battlesphere, anything like that. Yeah, it's kind of tough on that one, but I'll have to see if any CEDH players think that the equipment is good enough to run with Dockside. But, I mean, like I said, it's there. It's an option. But, as far as Halvar and the sword, what do I think about this? Very neat concept, very cool cards on both sides. I really enjoy them, but I don't see them in the command zone. I'm not a fan of them in the command zone, in all honesty. I see this as being a really good card in the 99 of an Boros or mono white artifact and auras, equipment and auras, Voltron style kind of deck. I'm not a huge fan of this one in the command zone. in the 99, it's great. I love it. Next one, Raydane? Raydane? I'm not sure how they want to pronounce that one. Y'all can correct me in the comments below. God of the Worthy. 2 and a white for a 2/3 legendary creature god with flying, vigilance. Snow lands your opponent's control enter the battlefield tapped. Non-creature spells your opponent's cast with converted mana cost 4 or greater, cost 2 more to cast. The flip side is a legendary artifact called Valkmira Protector's Shield. 3 and a white. If a source an opponent controls would deal damage to you or a permanent you control, prevent one of that damage. Whenever you or another permanent you control becomes the target of a spell or ability an opponent controls, counter that spell unless its controller pays 1. So the artifact, I like the fact that it prevents 1 damage. It doesn't seem like much, but in all honesty, that hoses a lot of token decks without anthems that just produce a bunch of 1/1s. Or elves, if you have somebody that runs like Elf Ball and doesn't for some reason have a way to pump them, but they're typically in green, so they typically do. But it does change up the way that attacking and blocking is done by a long shot. You would be very surprised how much damage prevention in white can definitely make a difference. Part 2 of the artifact itself, it's a constant Mana Tithe. For those of you who don't know, Mana Tithe is an older card that costs 1 white, and it's literally a white counterspell. It counters target spell unless its controller pays 1. It doesn't seem that powerful, but Force Spike is still a blue counterspell that gets used. So Mana Tithe is just one that just most people don't see it coming when it does come. As far as the creature side of it, it hoses Snowlands, which we are getting Snowlands in Kaldheim. There's going to be a lot of snow permanent matters kind of stuff coming in this set, on top of the previous snow permanent stuff that we've had before, which there's not a lot of the previous stuff. I mean, there's extra planar lens, and just depending on what colors you're in. We did get some in Modern Horizons. Now we got more coming in Kaldheim. So I like that snow permanents are becoming a thing. This hoses Snowlands, which is pretty cool. And this carrying about 4 CMC or greater, making it cost 2 more. It does remind me of Gaddock Teague, but he just stops your opponent from casting them. So I feel like Gaddock Teague is definitely more powerful. This just seems like a powered down version of Gaddock Teague. So if maybe you're in a play group and they don't like the way that Gaddock Teague shuts down those spells, maybe if you just swap that out for this one and just make the spells cost more, your play group will probably be a lot more okay with that than just not being able to cast the spell. So I feel like Raydane just is good, not great, but I mean, I could be wrong. We'll see what happens when it comes time for the set to be released and it's out in the wild, see how cards get played. Next one, Alrand, or Alrund, God of the Cosmos, the Odin of the set. This is pretty cool. You can always tell because of the eye. 3 and 2 blue for a 1/1 legendary creature god. He gets +1/+1 for each card in your hand and each foretold card you own in exile. At the beginning of your end step, choose a card type, then reveal the top 2 cards of your library. Put all cards of the chosen type into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. The flip side is Haka, Whispering Raven. This is Odin's Raven. 1 and a blue for a 2/3 legendary creature bird. Has flying. So 2 mana, 2/3 flyer. That's actually really, really relevant. Whenever Haka deals combat damage to a player, return it to its owner's hand, then scry 2. So we've seen this before with Cartographer's Hawk, where it bounces back to your hand and you get a plains. This one bounces back and lets you scry 2. Alright. So, here's what I think about this one. Alrund himself. He seems pretty decent. You definitely need a lot of top deck manipulation. He's a 5-mana 1/1, but he gets +1/+1 for each card in your hand. So this doesn't seem great. In all honesty, I see this card being played for the flip side, Haka. Why, do you ask? He's a 2-mana 2/3 flyer. First off, that's a really good cost for that power toughness with flying, on a flying body. Also, why does this card matter? I mean, Yuriko is still a deck, and Yuriko likes flying creatures or unblockable creatures. And the fact that it deals combat damage and bounces itself back to its hand, back to your hand. Think about this scenario with Yuriko. You have Haka on the field and one of the 1-mana unblockable creatures. Godol Lurker, just pick one. You swing with both. Alright, no blocks because they don't have a flyer and they can't block the unblockable. Cool. Now here's how this works. Yuriko ninjutsus on the unblockable creature, the 1-mana 1. Now both of them hit. You stack the triggers so you get the scry from Haka when he bounces himself. So now you have top deck manipulation when Yuriko's swinging in and deals the damage from ninjutsu. And now you get to see what the top card is. It gives you added top deck manipulation for a Yuriko deck. Granted, yes, it bounces back to your hand, but it's 2 mana. It's not that bad. And then Yuriko flips the top card, you put that card into your hand, and you're also dealing damage to all your opponents based on CMC. So Haka, I feel, is very, very awesome for a Yuriko deck. It may be a lot of hoops to jump through, but it's still an option, and I don't see why it wouldn't be a card that you would play in Yuriko. Also, there was the Commander Legends, the Legends that were partners that care about flying matters, and then one lets you scry based on flyers, and the other one that says, that's a flyer that says whenever you would scry, you draw that many cards instead. Could also go in that one very easily. It was Siani and I can't remember the Sphinx, but yeah, pretty cool concept. I definitely like Haka. Not a fan of Alrund, but I definitely like Haka. So this one on the backside, and again, not a really big fan of this card being in the command zone. It doesn't seem that powerful, but I could be wrong. Next one, Kasima, God of the Voyage. 2 and a blue for a 2/4 legendary creature god. This is a lot of text. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may exile Kasima. If you do, it gains whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control. If Kasima is exiled, you may put a voyage counter on it. Okay. If you don't, return Kasima to the battlefield with X 1/1 counters on it and draw X cards where X is the number of voyage counters on it. Whew. Okay. So, landfalls matters for blue. There's a couple options with that. Tatiova, Tulane, the new Serpent, AC. This, again, I mean, I do like the fact that it does let you build up the counters and then you can draw a bunch of cards off of this, so this would be probably just a draw engine for that deck. Except for the fact that all 3 of those options already draw cards, so I guess if you're just looking to draw a bunch more cards, and this one flips over to the Omen Keel. Okay. 1 and a blue for a 3/3 legendary artifact vehicle with a crew of 1. Okay. Not a bad deal. Whenever a vehicle you control deals combat damage to a player, that player exiles that many cards from the top of their library. You may play land cards from among those cards as long as they remain exiled. this seems very lackluster. I'm not really a fan of the flip side. Kasima seems pretty cool. Not even in the command zone, but in the 99 of something like Tatiova, AC, or, you know, Chulane. This one's definitely very lackluster, and I'm not a big fan of the vehicle matters flip side of this. Yeah, I'm just going to leave that one be. Alright, so the next god we have, Egon, God of Death. This one, I love the scythe. That looks pretty cool. 2 and a black for a legendary creature god has for a 6/6 with Death Touch. At the beginning of your upkeep, exile 2 cards from your graveyard. Okay. If you can't, sacrifice Egon and draw a card. Okay, I mean, it's big and it has Death Touch. Honestly, with it being a 6/6, I don't see the purpose of it having Death Touch. I feel like if you're going to make a 3-mana 6/6, I mean, I guess giving it trample would be a little busted, but does it need the Death Touch as a 6/6? I don't know. There's always something wrong with that scenario, in my opinion. But 3-mana 6/6 is very big, very cheap to cast. The downside, if you don't get an option, because it is literally, you have to exile 2 cards from your graveyard. So this has got to be a deck that whatever is in your graveyard, you don't care if you exile it out of your graveyard. Maybe some extra lands. Maybe you're doing like a blue-black mill deck of some sort that doesn't care about, or, you know, the lands in there or something. I'm not sure. And if you don't, you have to sack him and draw a card. So one thing that I do like, though, is it's a 3-mana 6/6. So Greven Predator Captain. I feel like this would be a really good card for that, because let's face it, in Greven you're looking for low CMC, high power kind of creatures because of the way Greven works. Because a lot of the times you'll see a Rotting Regisaur because it's 3 mana, and when you sack it with Greven's attack trigger, you're drawing a bunch of cards. So Egon definitely works for that. Hopefully the flip side's a little bit better. Yes, I do apologize. Most of these I am really paying attention to the first time. I have seen them, obviously, because I have screenshots on my phone, but a lot of this is more of gut reaction, because I'm not necessarily reading them too much when I get the screenshots for you guys. So you're getting more of a first-hand, just first glance look at this card reaction from me. I do apologize if most of you don't, if some of you don't like this way of me doing it. If not, let me know and I will start getting more prep on these. But yeah, just let me know what you guys think in the comments. So the flip side, Throne of Death, 1 black for a legendary artifact. That's it, 1 black. This is going to be good, right? At the beginning of your upkeep, mill a card. That's actually a really good, just, yeah. There's so many decks, Muldrotha, Arami of the Dead Tide, that just want to self-mill. And for 1 black, and just every turn you just mill a card for free. Yeah, this is a great exchange. It also has an activated ability. 2 and a black, tap, exile a creature card from your graveyard, and then draw a card. So it's a draw engine for a self-mill deck. It's not bad. That's actually just really good. I really like the flip side. Egon, not so much. Throne of Death, really good. Definitely in the 99, not much for a commander in my opinion. But yeah, that's pretty cool. Tergrid, God of Fright, 3 and 2 black for a 4/5 legendary creature god with menace. Whenever an opponent sacrifices a non-token permanent or discards a permanent card, you may put that card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. So yeah, this is very reminiscent of Grave Betrayal, which is a 7-mana black enchantment that says whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, you get to bring it back under your control with a +1/+1 counter. This does it for 5 mana. Combining this with something like Dictative Erebos is definitely better than doing something like It That Betrays, which is the 12 mana Eldrazi that does the same thing. Really, really like this one. So in this, I can see this being in the command zone. So you're doing a sacrifice and maybe a little bit of a discard theme. So you're running Grave Pact, Dictative Erebos, Diabolic Edicts, Butcher and Malakir. And then on top of that, you're running some Thoughtseize or just, you know, discard stuff from your opponents. Flip side, Tergrid's Lantern, 3 and a black for a legendary artifact. Tap, target player loses 3 life unless they sack a non-land permanent or discard a card. So very reminiscent of Nicol Bolas, one of the Nicol Bolas's plus ability, and Torment of Hailfire. 3 and a black to untap it. Now, if you could find a way to get infinite mana and untap and constantly do this, you basically infinite Torment of Hailfire them, and you can win the game. I like Tergrid a lot better than the flip side on this one, unfortunately, but hey. Tergrid, very cool. As far as in the 99 or in the command zone, I could see both. In the 99 of some kind of a Golgari Reanimator or Jund Reanimator, especially those. Yeah, I mean, this is just really good. You're using all the Plague Crafters, Fleshbag Marauders, stuff like that. Yeah, Tergrid, very cool. Flip side, not so much. It could be both, the 99 or the command zone. Next one, Volky, God of Lies. 1 and a black for a 2/1 legendary creature god. When he enters the battlefield, each opponent reveals their hand. For each opponent, exile a creature card they revealed this way until Volky leaves the battlefield. X, choose a creature exiled with Volky with converted mana cost X. Yep, you have to pay exact X for the cost. Volky becomes a copy of that card. Okay, the God of Lies, this is the Loki. That front side I'm not a huge fan of, but the fact that it's 2 mana automatically make them discard a creature. This could be really good if you get this out very early. The fact that it is 2 mana means that you're definitely able to get it out turn 1, turn 2 very easily. Flip side, Tibble. We got the new Tibble, and it's very playable, except for the cast cost. Tibble, Cosmic Imposter. He's 5 and a black and a red, which makes this card a Rakdos commander, because it counts the color for both sides. So 7 mana. We get a good Tibble, and he has to cost 7. As Tibble enters the battlefield, you get an emblem with play. You may play cards exiled with Tibble, Cosmic Imposter, and may spend mana as though it were mana of any color to cast those spells. +2, exile the top card of each player's library, which gives you options. That's pretty cool. -3, exile target artifact or creature. That's pretty cool, because you're now exiling a bunch of stuff, apparently. Comes in with 5 loyalty, by the way, so this is something to keep in mind. -8, exile all cards from all graveyards, add 3 red to your mana pool. The most playable Tibble ever, and he had to cost 7. Now granted, 7 mana in Commander's not that big of a deal, because we tend to ramp a lot. So, especially in more casual play groups, this is not, I don't see this being a CEDH card, at least the Tibble, maybe the Volky, but not the Tibble. So, I mean, why not? It seems good. I like the fact that we finally got one that's playable. Next one, Berrgy, God of Storytelling. 2 and a red for a 3/3 god. Whenever you cast a spell, add red until end of turn. You don't lose this mana as steps and phases end. Creatures you control can boast twice during each of your turns rather than once. So this is definitely going to be a part of a Storm deck. I don't see this being necessarily in the command zone as a mono-red Storm, but in a red-blue Storm style deck, because you get to build up the red mana. Kaikar wins Fury, gets used as a Storm Commander as well, so this could definitely be in the 99. The fact that you get to double up on Boast, you apparently still have to pay the Boast cost twice to be able to Boast twice. So keep that one in mind. I haven't looked too much into the Boast. The only one that I've seen really close up as far as the Boast cards in this set was the black one that lets you tutor a card, which that's crazy. Alright, so the flip side of this one is Hornfell Horn of Bounty. 4 and a red for a legendary artifact. Discard a card, exile the top 2. You may play those cards this turn. Okay, so it's a discard outlet. It's 5 mana, but it effectively lets you impulsive draw 2 cards. That seems neat. So the flip side of this, definitely in a mono red deck if you're looking for a card draw. The other side, I would definitely say more in the 99 for a Storm deck. Now the Horn can also be used in the Storm deck as well. Especially in a wheel deck that's, you know, drawing a bunch of cards, discarding a bunch of cards, and reshuffling, and then keeping, you know, pace with everything going on. So both sides definitely for a Storm deck. The Horn can be definitely used in a mono red deck, and actually the other side could also be very good in a mono red deck because it adds red mana. So definitely more stormy kind of style card. It's not necessarily busted enough to be worried about it, but is definitely going to be a really big enabler in my opinion. Next up, Toralf, God of Fury, 2 and 2 red for a 5/4 god with Trample. Whenever a creature or planeswalker an opponent controls is dealt excess non-combat damage, Toralf deals damage equal to the excess to any target other than that permanent. So excess damage is a thing that is coming into this set, which the way I'm understanding it is Lightning Bolt deals 3 damage to target creature to any target. So because it got errated. So it's 3 damage to any target. So let's say you hit a 1/1 for 3 damage with a Lightning Bolt. Well, it kills it because it's dealt the 1 damage, but now you had 2 damage left over. So Toralf, what he does with the excess damage is you get to bounce that damage. So now you can hit the player for the 2 excess damage. Or if they have 3 1/1s, you can Lightning Bolt 1 and then bounce and bounce again and clear out 3 1/1s. It's a neat concept. It basically helps enable a lot more of the red burn spells that red has. As far as a commander, I think that this could definitely be a mono red commander, just caring about the excess damage bouncing around. And this is definitely going to be, or it could definitely be in the 99 of something like Torbrand that increases the damage dealt by red spells. The flip side, however, is Thors Hammer. This is the Thor of the set, because it's Mjolnir. 1 and a red. I'm sorry, 1 and a red for a legendary artifact equipment. Equip cost is 1 and a red. Equip creature has pay 1 and a red. Tap unattached Thors Hammer. It deals 3 damage to any target. Thors Hammer is return Thors Hammer to its owner's hand. So it's like when Mjolnir gets thrown and it comes back to you. So you get to throw the hammer and that comes back. And deals 3 damage. Okay. Equipped creature gets +3/+0 and has, as long as it's legendary. So you only get the buff if the creature is legendary. So that's very reminiscent of you must be worthy to pick up Thors Hammer. So I like the flavor on that. That's pretty cool. So 2 to play, 2 to equip, and then 2 to throw for 3 damage. That's 6 mana. That's 3 and 3 red to deal 3 damage. See, I'm not okay with that. That's not all that great in my opinion. I mean, at least Toralf is playable. Um, his hammer, definitely more of a casual thing, or it's just going to sit there until you just really want to surprise somebody with 3 damage. But you're not going to try to go infinite and infinitely cast the hammer. Although, if anybody does this and comes up with a combo to just infinitely throw Thors Hammer, I want to know about this one. Just let me know down in the comments below what the combo ends up being, because that would be really, really sick. Next god, Asika, God of the Tree. 1 and 2 green for a 1/4 god with Vigilance. Tap, add 1 mana of any color, so it's at 3 mana Birds of Paradise. Other legendary creatures you control have Vigilance, and tap to add 1 mana of any color. So, turning all of your... so, cares about legendary creatures, turns all of your legendary stuff into Birds of Paradise, basically, and gives them all Vigilance, which is cool, because now they could all swing, and then they could all tap for mana, you know, do what you will with that side. The big part about this one, I've already had a video come out about this one, is the Prismatic Bridge, because it is a legendary enchantment that costs Wooburg. So Asika is a 5-color commander. At the beginning of your upkeep, reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a creature or planeswalker. Put that card onto the battlefield and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So I've already talked about this one in my last video, which basically I was talking about making a 5-color god tribal deck. This is a card that cares about gods, cares about creatures, so you're either going to be cheating in big creatures, or you could do this for a god tribal deck like I was talking about in that previous video. Or this could be part of a Super Friends deck, because in most Super Friends decks, you're not running a lot of creatures. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's some creatures involved in a Super Friends deck. But this one, but most of them don't have too many, because you're running about 15 planeswalkers. Well, 10 to 15 planeswalkers, depending on how you build it. So, yeah, the Prismatic Bridge is definitely my go-to side. Asika very much cares about just 5-color legendary matters. Commander seems pretty cool. But yeah, seems really cool in my opinion. That's about as far as I got with that one. Sorry. Jorn, God of Winter. 2 and a green for a legendary snow creature god. Oh, we got a snow creature god. Whenever Jorn attacks, untap each snow permanent you control. So very much like Bear Umbra, sort of Feast and Famine, kind of a Seaborn Muse on attack trigger, but only for snow permanents, so you're definitely going to be running all snowlands. The flip side is Kaldhiem, the Rime Staff. 1 and a blue and a black, which makes this whole commander Sultai. You are now in green, blue, black. Legendary Snow Artifact. Tap. You may play target snow permanent card from your graveyard this turn. If you do, it enters the battlefield tapped. Okay, I can see some weird, interesting shenanigans. If I'm not too familiar with a lot of the snow permanents, but I feel like there's probably something you could do with that. I don't know if there's an infinite capability with this card. That'd be pretty neat, though. But all in all, I definitely like Jorn. The Rime Staff, I'm not 100% sure if there is anything infinite with that, because it's just tap, so you have to have a way to untap it. But I could still see some like weird combo-y potential in that, depending on what other snow permanents there are available in this game. See, that's the weird thing about bringing something back that hasn't been around for quite some time. Most of the time, especially new players, you gotta do a lot of research in all these snow permanents now to find out what's going on with these and if they're worth running sometimes. Extra Planar Lens, yes, just about everybody knows about Extra Planar Lens. As far as anything beyond that, gotta do the research, unfortunately. Alright, next up, we have Kaldhiem, God of Kinship. 2 and 2 green, legendary creature god, 2/4. As long as you control 3 or more legendary creatures, Kaldhiem gets +4/+2 and has vigilance. Okay, so it cares about legendary creatures for the buff and gives it vigilance, making it a 6/6. 1 and a green, tap it. Look at the top 6 cards of your library, reveal a legendary creature card from among them, and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom in a random order. Okay, so it kind of feels like it. I don't like the fact that it's mono green. Even the flip side is green. Okay, so very much similar to Captain Sisay kind of style decks. There's the Sisay Weatherlight Captain, the 5-color one. I feel like this definitely goes in the 99 of those. You can definitely attempt a mono green Legendary Matters. Green does have plenty of legendaries. And kind of is a draw engine in a way, because it is the top 6 cards, and it cheats the card into play, right? Oh, no, put it into your hand. So yeah, it's a draw engine. Why not? It seems okay. The flip side is the Ringheart Crest. 1 and a green for a legendary artifact. As it enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. Tap to add 1 green. Spend this mana only to cast a creature spell of the chosen type or a legendary creature spell. Mono green elves? Mono green bears? I mean, the flip side definitely is just a mana rock for green. I mean, why not? 2 mana, tap to add a green. So yeah, it's not a bad card. Kolvari, definitely in the 99 of a Legendary Matters. The Ringheart Crest is kind of in my opinion. But yeah, I mean, let's face it, green's got so many good cards, and green is so powerful as it is. The fact that they get a couple of kind of duds, I'm okay with. I think a lot of us are okay with that at this point. All in all, a lot of these seem really cool. The sad part is, a bunch of these, one side is very playable, and the other one, not so much. Which, I guess we would have expected that to happen. But as far as like favorite cards, so most powerful would definitely have to go to Tergrid, because of the fact that whenever an opponent has to sacrifice a creature or discard a card, you automatically get that, and it's non-token. So it's even when they crack a fetch land, you now have that fetch land. So I can see that deck running like Chromatic Lantern, just in case if it's an off-color fetch or something, if you're mono black maybe. Yeah, that one's definitely got to be the most powerful. My favorite out of this has got to be Tibble. Mainly because I don't care about the Volky. The Tibble, I just really like the Tibble. He's playable, but he's 7 mana. That kind of makes me sad. And Haka's really great, especially for Yuriko. I don't care what anybody says. But that's just my opinion. So yeah, what do you guys think about the gods? Do you feel like there was a bunch of hits or misses? Do you happen to know which gods were portrayed in each of these cards? Because, believe it or not, Norse mythology has way more than just Thor, Odin, and Loki. So, if you are a big Norse mythology buff and know all about the Norse gods and can definitely pinpoint which ones are which in these cards, definitely let me know down in the comments below. I'm definitely going to be doing my own research to try to figure that out as well for myself, unless Wizards of the Coast put out an article that I don't know about where they talked about this already. But like I said, I'll have to look into it. But I will see you guys for the next video where I talk about the rest of the legendary cards, because boy, there's a lot. So, see you guys next video.